Mother said, "Isn't he nice? He's very small." Father said, "He will grow up to be a bullfrog. He will be big." And Father was right. Bullfrog grew and grew. He became so big that Chris and Matt put him in the bathtub. After a while, he didn't have a tail anymore. He grew feet instead, very big feet. His feet meant he could follow Chris and Matt around and do all the things they liked to do. Chris and Matt taught Bullfrog how to play cards. He liked that very much. He especially liked to play Go Fish. He also liked to eat. One day he popped out of the bathtub after a relaxing bath and said, "I feel hungry. How about a hamburger with relish?" "Okay," said Chris and Matt. And they asked Mother for 3 hamburgers with relish. Mother didn't ask any questions. Not then. But soon she wondered, where was all the food she bought? It was all gone. She went looking for Bullfrog. He was sitting on the porch in the sun. "Have you been eating all my food?" she asked. "Indeed I have," said Bullfrog. "I am a growing frog." "You sure are," said Mother. And Bullfrog grew and grew and was very comfortable living with Chris and Matt and Mother and Father. But one night, after a fierce pillow fight with Chris and Matt, when Father was almost completely covered with feathers, I'll let you see that before I turn the page. Father said, "What kind of frog is this? He eats hamburgers, has pillow fights, and plays cards all day." No one could think of anything to say except Bullfrog. "I love all of you," he said. "You are my family." Chris and Matt said, "And we love you too, Bullfrog. You are the best card player we know." And that was the end of that, until the next day.
It's her cat. Isabel's cat.
You're my cat. She really wants to be here for this story. When Father came home the next afternoon, there was Bullfrog, sitting in Father's chair, reading Father's newspaper, and wearing Father's slippers. You see, they just fit on his big toes. Father sat down next to Bullfrog. "The time has come," he said to Bullfrog, "to talk about you." "Who, me?" said Bullfrog. "Yes, you," said Father. "It is time to be thinking of your own frog family. You are grown up now." "I am at that," said Bullfrog. "The bathtub and your chair are getting a little small." "But how can I leave you?" asked Bullfrog. "I am so happy here." Chris and Matt put their arms around Bullfrog. We have been happy too, they said, but you are too big for us. You must find a place for yourself in the world. Bullfrog thought about it. I shall need lunch, he said. Yes, said Mother. And a pack of cards, said Frog. Yes, said Chris and Matt. And a last bath, said Bullfrog. Yes, said Father. So Bullfrog took his bath, packed up his lunch, and picked up a deck of cards. I am off to find a very big lake, he said. I will start my own family. We will miss you, said Father. We will think of you often, said Chris and Matt. I will never forget you, said Mother. Of course you will miss me, said Bullfrog. But you will hear from me every spring in Frog Talk. It will always mean I love you. So they kissed Bullfrog and he went down the road, waving goodbye and practicing his frog talk. The end.
All right, now time for the offertory. Since we're on Zoom, I'll let you know that you can make contributions on our website, UUFM.net. Go to donations. There you can choose to donate to the Helping Hands recipient, the blessing boxes, and other projects that we support, as well as the fellowship operating budget. All contributions are greatly appreciated and go to help support all aspects of a fellowship.
Wow, thank you, Renee, and happy birthday. Thank you, Michael, for letting us know that it's Renee Brown's birthday. So now is the time to share any other joys and sorrows you might be bringing to the community. You're welcome to put them in the chat for everyone to read, and I will read them out loud. And if you have a joy or a sorrow that you want to share anonymously, you can send it to me directly, and I will read what you've written without your name. So we have a joy from Katie, actually 2 joys from Katie. She's had lots of time with Lindsay, She writes, my husband and Cade, our 11-year-old, this winter holiday, especially since preteens seem to like new creatures every week. I'm grateful to have the time together. Yes. And a second joy from Katie. We have friends fostering 4 kids. Lindsay and I will take all the kids to the movies today, which is as much a treat to Katie as it is to them. How fun. More joys about family. Rob shares joy that I got to spend the last 10 days with my mom in Arizona. Helped to get 41 things marked off her to-do list. That's amazing. Can I ask everybody to mute? If you're not speaking, there's some background noise. Another joy from Dick. Beeman just met my new granddaughter, Nev, and Sylvia is still with her in Montreal. How wonderful. We were hearing a little bit about Nev before the service. Any other joys and sorrows that you wish to share? I know my cats have many joys and sorrows that they're expressing. I don't understand them all, but I promise I'll give them a hug after the service. So happy birthday to Renee and to Nev. And let's hold a moment of silence for all these joys, for the sorrows that are there too, for everything that remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. And I will ring a bell before and after our moment of silence. Thank you, Renee. So I rounded out 2021 in Nashville with my parents. We didn't check 41 things off the to-do list, but we got a little bit of done. I cleaned out some storage, got some treasures. It's the first time I've been home with them since the pandemic began, and it was really nice to be there. With the rise of the Omicron variant, I waited until the last minute to decide whether the risk of traveling outweighed the certain emotional cost of continued distance from my family. And so far, it seems like I made the right decision. And for me, this feels like a transition from the acute crisis times of the pandemic to whatever this new era is. The pandemic isn't over, and yes, there is a continued risk that I or people I love will be infected and get really sick. And the anxiety and the depression triggered by the pandemic is still there, but I'm finding more acceptance and I'm learning more ways to manage. Going home to Nashville felt like a ritual of release from my prior pandemic habit of default isolation. I did travel earlier this fall to meet you all here in Kansas before my big move here and for a professional meeting, but I hadn't been home yet, partly because I wasn't ready to accept that these are the conditions for my homecoming. I'm used to going home and then going to church with my folks, seeing other family members, going out shopping. I'm used to not feeling like I'm putting my parents' health at risk just by breathing. And so these are some of the formerly basic aspects of life that are now not a part of life. I took them for granted, but now I understand that they were a part of my going home tradition. And to go home without them means that the tradition is changing. It has taken me a while to accept it. I think I've been hiding out in default isolation. This is about travel, but also day-to-day things. Not just because default isolation keeps me and others safer from the virus, but also because it keeps me safer from having to accept our changing reality. But my willingness to accept the change has been growing, and going home was a milestone. It was a way to say goodbye to what was. Today we're focusing on goodbyes. Now I know the new year started yesterday. Some say hello to the new year, but I say goodbye to the old year. I think it's okay to still be adjusting. And besides, today is a snow day, so it feels to me like a breather before the real business of 2022 commences. What are we saying goodbye to as we say goodbye to 2021? Well, I think we all get to decide for ourselves. For me, like I said, one thing that 2021 represents is my habit of default isolation. 2020 was about the shock and terror of isolation, and 2021 was about it becoming routine. So when I say goodbye to 2021, I'm setting an intention to change the habit. But at its root, this goodbye is not a willful, forced shutting the door. It's not an angry breakup with isolation. Really, I'm just saying goodbye to something that is already gone, whether I want it to be gone or not, the ease of my old way of life. Default isolation has been my means of being in denial about the irreversible impact of COVID. Not unlike the people who haven't changed their lives at all, but I like to think that my form of denial is, somehow safer. It's still denial, though, and it has a negative effect on my mental health, even if it's been a part of my physical health. So saying goodbye to 2021 brings up kind of mixed emotions. I'm saying goodbye to my old way of life and my fantasy that my life will be exactly like that again. And that's sad, but I'm also saying goodbye to my habits of denial, which feels good. So there's grief in there, but also relief. Now, I know this isn't news to you, but COVID is not the only thing going on in our lives. 2021 probably holds a lot of other stories and events for you. With the turning of the year, now is the time to reflect on which events, which chapters of which stories are complete. I'm going to pause for a few breaths and let you think about that for a minute. You may want to jot down an informal list, maybe even 2 lists. What ended in 2021? Your relationships, beliefs, routines, expectations, certainties, plans, hopes, projects. What are you leaving behind in 2021? You might list the losses that you wish were not losses, ones you're really grieving, people who have died, things outside your control that have ended with sadness. You might want to have a separate list of things that you want to be over, things you intend to be over, bad habits you haven't picked up again yet in 2022, good changes from 2021 that you haven't yet celebrated. I won't be asking you to share your list with anyone, so you can allow anything to come to mind for a minute or so. So what are you leaving behind in 2021? Thank you. I know that it's been a hard year, and it follows a hard year before that, and that for many people, life has been hard for a long time. We've lost a lot of good things and good people. So this could feel heavy, and that's okay if it does. But I hope you can also identify what's good to leave behind, so you can celebrate letting go and having space for some new things. So for the rest of our time together, I'm going to lead us through a practice I learned from a co-counseling group in San Francisco called Interchange, which is led by someone named Steve Bierman. I thought it would be useful and maybe even fun to adapt it to saying goodbye to 2021. For this process, I invite you to imagine that 2021 is an entity, a being that you've been in relationship with, and now the relationship is over. You've broken up, but you both have a few more things you want to say to each other before you go your separate ways. So take a look at your list or think back to your answer to your question, what are you leaving behind in 2021? Look over the whole list and see if it makes sense to imagine 2021 as an entity that you could talk to and actually say goodbye to. I'm going to lead you in the following conversations with this X. You'll get to communicate resentments, apologize, forgive, express gratitude, appreciate what you loved and will miss, and then say goodbye. We'll have 2 opportunities to break into small groups to discuss, and I'll explain that ahead of time. If you don't want to be in a breakout room and talk with people, that's fine. You can stay here in the main room and we'll have some quiet reflection time just for you. You can write in your journal or sit and think. So Imagine you're sitting down with 2021 for this final conversation. You've done everything you can to work it out, to coexist, but now you're accepting. You can't change 2021, and 2021 can't change you. But we can get some things off our chests before moving on, and we can open up a new future. So step 1, communicating resentments. We'll have 4 minutes, and if you'd like, you can go into a small group to articulate everything about 2021 that irritates you. The parts of the year that you're ready to say good riddance to. For this exercise, you don't have to be enlightened or self-aware. Your resentment doesn't have to be justified. If you're feeling petty and unwilling to take responsibility, that's fine for now. Be honest, as long as you have an intention that this process makes you healthier. So I'm going to put some prompts in the chat right now. If you would like to go into a breakout room, could you turn your camera on so we have a sense of how many people are doing that? So our prompts are, let's see, in the chat. So there's some sentence starters here. So I encourage you, if you're going in a breakout room, make sure everyone has a chance to finish one of these sentences. So go around the circle and have everyone do that. And then if you want to have more conversation, that's welcome. But I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to say something. So Mark is going to invite you into breakout rooms. It looks like we have enough people for rooms of 4 or 5 people. And you might have fewer than that in your room. In a moment, you'll get an invitation. So if you see a box come up, you can click join, and that'll send you off. And if you're having difficulties, wave your hand and we'll try to coach you through to get to your breakout room. Okay. So I'll just set a timer here for a few minutes and we'll just have some quiet reflection. We'll have everybody rejoining us in a few seconds. All right, welcome back, everyone. So I'm going to put these prompts in the chat again, and just one at a time. And if you'd like to type in the end of the sentence, feel free, and I'll read aloud some of them. So I'm still mad at you, 2021, for. Feel free to fill in the blank for this sentence. Anybody? I'm still mad at you for being so hate-filled, for making COP23 BS, I'm still mad at you, 2021, for allowing so much disinformation to prevail. 2021, I resent you for not being honest. I resent you for student loans. Hear, hear. 2021, I wish you hadn't been so hypocritical. 2021, I wish you hadn't been so isolating. I wish you had been more. So, Mark, is this, I wish you hadn't been so fast, or I wish you had been more fast? I wish you hadn't been so fast, 2021. Yeah. Okay, so if you can, imagine 2021 listening to you, to all of your resentments, those spoken and unspoken, and saying thank you. Thank you for sharing this with me. Thank you for telling me your resentments. So the next step in this process of goodbye is apologizing. 2021 did us wrong in a number of ways, but we weren't perfect either. What do you need to clear up? Admit to yourself that you don't like about your behavior in 2021. Steve Behrman, who designed this whole ritual, points out that in order to apologize, you have to implicitly forgive yourself, which is not always easy. Keep in mind that you are apologizing for your own sake about the things you need to apologize for, end quote. This step is about the negative impact you've had. You can apologize to 2021 as a stand-in for all those out there you may have negatively impacted. This isn't about your intention. You don't need to make excuses or justifications. You don't need to convince 2021 that you're a good person despite being imperfect. This step, apologies, and the next one, forgiveness, is a private reflection. So it's just for you, though you're welcome to share what comes up for you later in coffee hour. So I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes for you to reflect in your thinking or writing. I encourage you to complete the sentence, I'm sorry that, ... I'm sorry for, or I apologize for. Just a few more seconds. Okay, and now if you can, imagine 2021 saying, "Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you. Thank you for telling me this." And I see some of you have written some in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay, the next step is forgiving. So yeah, you're welcome to put more in the chat if you'd like. Apologies. I'm seeing some beautiful ones. I'll go ahead and read them out. I'm sorry for not reaching out or sharing with more people. I'm sorry I couldn't figure out how to make a difference in how decisions are made and how information is filtered. Sorry about the information silos and not knowing how to break through. I'm sorry for not being more politically engaged. I'm sorry for not hearing everything you were trying to tell me, even though I'm not sure what it was. So yeah, imagine 2021 responding, "Thank you for sharing." So forgiving. Take a look back at some of these apologies. Maybe there's some self-forgiveness possible here. And maybe also a look at the resentments you came up with earlier. And see if you have space in your mind or your heart to forgive yourself and 2021 for some of those things. Forgiveness is not about condoning those actions or forgetting that they happened. Your relationship with 2021 is over, so you're not going to allow 2021 to do any of these things to you again. But that might not be enough closure. Forgiveness comes, Steve Bierman writes, forgiveness comes from having compassion toward the one you're forgiving and being able to imagine how, when everything is taken into account, their behavior was somehow constrained to be what it was. In the future, you may expect them to never repeat the behavior, but you are willing to forgive past transgressions, to give up the right to resent them into the future. Forgiving is something you do for yourself, Steve continues. You are doing this for you, to give yourself the opportunity to get complete with everything that happened. So take a few breaths now and see if you can feel any forgiveness toward 2021. Moving on to gratitude. 2021 wasn't all bad, right? So let's take some time to remember the good things. And we'll have the opportunity to go back into breakout rooms. You'll be with the same people. If you didn't do it before and want to do it now, that's fine. If you did it before and you don't want to do a breakout room now, that's also fine. So I think Mark will open those breakout rooms up again. And make sure to let everybody speak. So how is your life better because of 2021?
I'm going to recreate because a whole bunch of these are unassigned. Maybe that's by choice. But hold on just a second. Can I do that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you might not be with the same people.
Yeah.
once Mark does that. You know, Mark, on my end, it doesn't say unassigned. It just says not joined. So I think it might be okay to let everybody be in their same rooms. Okay. So this can be an opportunity for those of you who are still here in the main room, just to reflect on your gratitude. How is your life better because of 2021? And we'll just wait a few more seconds before going back into breakout rooms. Okay, welcome back to the folks who got sent out. We're gonna send you back. Sorry, we had a tech thing. So you can finish your sentence. So feel free to go again. How is your life better because of 2021? Bonjour, welcome back. So, yes, I'm really appreciating some of what people have written in the chat. I'll read some of these. Thankful that 2021 provoked clearer vision, even when through shock. More appreciation of health caregivers and scientists. I'm happy to be doing things that I love and that fulfill me. Gratitude for the resilience of this group of people. The pandemic can't hold us down. Yeah, thank you all. Every once in a while, for me, when I'm grounded in moments of gratitude, I tap into the truth about my past, that there is no other way I could have gotten here. Everything that has happened in my life is the groundwork for this moment. Everything, even the worst moments and the choices I've made that I will never, ever make again. The other versions of me that didn't have to go through all that hard stuff aren't real people, but I am a real person and I'm living this life. So when I'm in this kind of emotional and mental space, and I can be honest, I am in this moment, I am thankfully in this space, I can really appreciate the things that I'm saying goodbye to. And so that brings us to our second to last step in this process, which is appreciating what you loved and will miss. So this is a good moment to look back at your first list, very first one, of what you're leaving behind in 2021. Here are some words from Steve Bierman. It's especially important at the end of a relationship not to pretend to yourself that you don't care about what you're losing. In the short term, it can feel easier to justify separating if you devalue your past. In the long term, this will leave you incomplete. Bullfrog and his family did this step in the story I read earlier. Bullfrog realized he would miss Mother's cooking and the bathtub and playing cards with Chris and Matt. And his family, each of them said how much they'd miss Bullfrog. Even Father, who was never very expressive with his appreciation during their relationship. So, what will you miss about 2021? Since I'm breaking up with my default of isolation, I'll share that I'm going to miss not thinking much about how I look. It's been really nice, 2021 and also 2020, to be exempt from a lot of the norms and social pressures to look a certain way in public. And I've been able to just enjoy my inner beauty. So how about you? What will you miss as we're saying goodbye to 2021? Feel free to type this into the chat and I'll read some of them aloud. What will you miss about 2021? Maybe nothing. Maybe we're just ready. Well, we're gonna listen now to Renee play Auld Lang Syne. So maybe you'll get sentimental and things will come up as we listen to the song. And I'm gonna try to put some of the lyrics in the chat too. Thank you, Renee. So I'm going to read some closing words as we say goodbye. So I'm going to read these words. They're by Eric Walker Wickstrom, and I'm gonna stand up. So feel free to rise in body or spirit. Rise however you want. I'm gonna stand up. I'm gonna open the door to allow the cats in. And bring our chalice close. The purpose of this community is to help its people grow. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you on the Zoom screen is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, fellowship, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in, quote, the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. And with these words, accepting everything that's changed, let's say goodbye to 2021. Goodbye, 2021. And if everybody wants to unmute, you're welcome to unmute. And let's say goodbye all together on the count of 3. So 1, 2, 3. Goodbye.
Bye.
May you never come back.
Yeah.
I think we can be safe on that one.
Mark and Pastor Isabel, I wonder, since we have such a robust group on Zoom today.